And for a while you resided in the Phoenix, Arizona area?
Yes.
And you had a job while you were working in Phoenix?
I did.
And in the course of that job, did you go by a different name?
Yes. So for my protection, because I obviously did stripping and some prostitution,
Okay.
I went by either Itty Bitty or Liliana.
Okay. So through the course of that employment, did you work at a specific place?
I did. I worked for Christie's Cabaret at the time when it was opened off of 32nd Street in Washington.
And how long did you work there?
I was there from age 19 till I was 22.
Okay. So through the course of that time, obviously you came in contact with a lot of people.
Yes.
And the reason we're here today is to specifically talk about one person. I guess I would ask you, what caused you or what made you want to tell your story involving this person? And who is the person?
His name is Danny.
Okay.
Danny. I don't remember the last name exactly, but I know, like, if I saw his picture, I know him. I've come in contact with him a few times at meetings, gatherings. But I know he was a very powerful politician, basically.
Okay, let me just interrupt you one more time. Is this a picture of Danny?
Yes.
Hold on. Keep it up there. Okay, question. And underneath this picture, it actually mentions his name. If you could read that and just let...
Valenzuela.
So
I was going to say Gonzalez, close enough.
Okay, so that is the same person that when you tell your story here in a moment, we're talking about the same person,
yes.
Councilman Danny Valenzuela?
Yes.
From the city of Phoenix, Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
So through the course of your employment at Christie's, you said?
Mm-hmm.
You came to meet
Danny.
Yes. And so tell the story as to how you met him and how it progressed from there.
Okay, so he was apparently a regular there, from what it sounded like. When I had first started dancing there, I was a newbie. Okay. So a lot of the people who were regular clientele in the club knew the girls, and he was very fond of me. He would come in almost once a week just to see me. It was usually about every Thursday, okay. Around the lunchtime. He'd stay for maybe 2 hours tops, really no more than that. We would always, he never did anything like the private dances, but he would always like to take me into like upstairs where it's a little darker, quieter, so we could usually talk. He would tell me a little bit about his life.
Okay.
He obviously did pay me for my time.
If I can, I just want to interject here one moment. Mm-hmm. You're here of your own free will. Mm-hmm. You haven't had any promises made to you, or in no way, shape, or form are you feel intimidated to be here. And you do know that if at any time you're uncomfortable, you can just get up and walk out.
Yes.
And then lastly, I need to ask you, are you under the influence of any alcohol or drugs?
No.
So you're clear-minded and you're recalling this as it happened.
Yes.
So you met Danny on these occasions, and then how did your relationship go from there?
So, like I said, it was strictly mostly in the club, and then after about a year of seeing him almost every other week to every week, he then invited me out to dinner. We went to dinner, and we later got in a hotel room. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of how I was really introduced into even the prostitution. He was one of my first people that I had slept with for money. And he actually even introduced me to other friends of his. So really? he was like more of a, I guess you can say, a helper. But
so let me interrupt you there while we're thinking about, so through the course of your relationship with Danny, that progressed from just a casual type of relationship at the club to where then you began
we were sexual with each other. You
became sexually active with one another, and he introduced you to friends of his for the same purposes of
yes.
a sexual relationship. And okay, and Do you know the names of any of his friends?
I don't remember the names because they were not regular like he was. So, yeah, it was. So, like I said, it was that basically was it. He and I didn't really. After I started getting away from the club thing, and I wasn't really as involved in the club, where I wasn't there daily or anything. I started going maybe quarterly. Really, was more like a seasonal dancer as I started throughout the years, and I started seeing less and less of him. And then I was then reunited with him one day at a function, at a lunch function, where I was actually sitting with my friend. So
you were at an event. It was a political event?
Yes.
And through the course of that event, you bumped into Danny again?
I was introduced to him, and it was almost awkward for us because we both knew who each other were, but we had to pretend like we didn't.
Okay.
So.
And why is that?
Well, obviously he didn't want people knowing that what he was doing on his personal time, and with money or anything, and no one really would. And I'm sure, like anyone else, like even like you, he wouldn't want anybody knowing who he was seeing and for what reason. So.
Is there anything, any one event other than that one? Let's go back in time. When you two were together, and you said you went out to dinner with him. Did you ever see anybody publicly that would have known who he was and come over and spoken with him and you?
No one really spoke to us. I remember we had gone to City Hall, steakhouse in Scottsdale. No one really spoke to us. We sat in a far back table. I'm sure people knew who he was. They kind of gave that look like they knew who he was. Obviously, he was a regular at the steakhouse. And I'm pretty sure they knew why I was there as well. Because usually, with someone at his age with a girl is my age.
And do you know anything specific about Danny? Is he married? Was he married then? Was he a city councilman at that time, or was he employed elsewhere?
He was a city councilman at the time. I do not remember if he was married or not. As far as I know, he wasn't, and it hasn't been. But I know that he was a city council at the time, and he was also running when I was running into him. So
on that night that you met him, was that a political function for him, or just
At the political function?
Yeah.
He was I believe he was trying to run.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you were just there with a friend?
Yes.
Okay. So let's get back to your relationship with him. You said it was, you didn't work as much or as frequently at the club. Were you still seeing him from time to time during that period, or had you broken off the relationship with him?
I was still seeing him time to time because we did have text message conversations, and he would ask where I've been, or he hasn't seen me in a while or anything. And so at the time I had gotten back into college, and so I was just a little more busy, so I couldn't be a full-time dancer or anything, and I wasn't really there when he wanted me to be there. And I think that he had gotten upset by that because I was kind of like his call girl. So.
Okay. And how about the other guys? You said there were no other regular customers that were friends of his.
No.
So you never saw them again, or it was
like a one-time thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, you said Danny paid you. Was cash, credit card?
He always paid cash.
And how
always in hundreds.
And how much did he pay you?
When I was dancing, like I said, he usually hung out for about 2 hours. I usually made anywhere from $300 to $400 from him.
Okay.
And then when I was sleeping with him, he would pay me by paying either bills of mine, such as phone bill, my car insurance. He kind of helped me out with that a lot, and then cash as well. So I usually made roughly around $1,000 to $2,000 a month from him alone.
Okay. So when it came time to pay your phone bills and stuff, how did he do that?
He just gave me the cash for it.
He gave you the cash so that you could pay your phone bill. So there was never any credit cards or any of that kind of stuff used. Like, he didn't take his credit card out to pay a bill?
No.
Okay. So how long was your relationship with him?
Um, it was probably a year, just about a year.
Okay.
Yeah.
And have you heard from him since?
No,
Does-
no.
does he-
When I had stopped seeing him, I'd stopped seeing everybody. I really cleaned up my life,
Okay.
and I'd changed my numbers, so I kind of broke things off with everyone. And like I said, when I had run into him at the political events, when I was with my friends, I was almost awkward because that by then he and I were no longer seeing each other,
Okay.
and so it was kind of like a reunion for us. But like I said, it was still almost awkward because of the relationship that we had.
Do you know if he had any other relationships with any of the other performers or girls at the club?
I don't know if he had any other relationships, but I could imagine that he might have, being that he was so popular in there and that he knew all the girls almost by name down there. So,
Really?
yeah.
How often would you say he frequented the club? Because did you work every night?
I worked every day. Yes.
You worked
Monday through Sunday. So.
Did you work during what hours? Did you know?
I was there from 11 when the club opened, usually until sometimes 10 p.m., sometimes till 2 p.m. or a.m. Sorry.
Okay.
So sometimes I work 10-hour shifts, sometimes I work 15-hour shifts, just depending on the day, really. But he, like I said, he was usually there like around the noon time because the club served like a steak and a dance for $20 or something, and so he would always come in and have lunch or and grab a beer. So.
Did when he came to the club, did he specifically request you?
Sometimes, yes. Yeah, after he got to know me better, and like I said, he became fond of me. Yeah, I would have him come in and he would ask for me. So like usually a bouncer would come, let me know, hey, this client's here for you.
Did the bouncer ever call him by name or just say client?
No, we just say client.
Okay, you never used this. Is there anything physical about him that you could recall specifically, maybe a tattoo or a birthmark?
I don't remember. I know like at the time when he and I were singing, he was a little more fit than he is today.
Okay.
I have seen recent pictures, so he's a little more fit than he is today. I know like he's a big, broad shoulder guy. He's tall.
Okay.
But, a very nice guy. So I never...
And if I can ask, why do you think it's important that you tell this story?
I just feel, when I saw how angry he was that I no longer wanted to see him, he's the kind of guy that doesn't like to not get his way, and I just feel that is important for people to know that, the type of personality that, he his type of personality, basically. Okay. I feel that somebody who has an anger issue should not be released into the public.
Let's get into that a little bit. Did he ever get physically aggressive with you?
He was aggressive sexually, very aggressive. He's very dominant. But like I said, the only time we ever had somewhat of an argument really was it actually had to do with using a protection. Okay. I've always been use protection all the time, and there was a time that we didn't have anything. Either of us had that, and so he was still trying to make a move towards me, and I kind of turned him down and said, unless you want to go to the store and get condoms, I'm not having sex with you. And he was pretty upset about it.
And by pretty upset, was it vocally or physically?
A little vocally. Basically, he basically he was angry because he felt that I didn't trust him.
Okay.
And and I told him it didn't have to do with the fact that I didn't trust him. It was just the fact that I had to keep myself protected and safe because I didn't know what he was doing elsewhere. In my opinion, if he's seeing me, there's got to be other people too, and he's not with me. With the man of his power. So.
Okay. Did he ever talk about any of that?
No.
He never talked about his life. You mentioned that you earlier on that when you were going upstairs at the club that you guys would talk.
Yeah, so that's how I knew he was a politician, because I always asked everybody, what they did. I was very friendly with anyone that came into the club. And I myself like to, I don't like to get too personal with people, but I like to know a little bit about the person that I'm spending my time with. Just to make that small talk is how you basically keep that person interested in you. And so, he told me about basically, how he was a politician and what have you. And I remember him telling me, a little bit about like his childhood, basically, when he was close to his mom, and so, but nothing really. He liked to talk about me a lot, and compliment me like all the time. So, yeah.
Is there anything else that we've missed that you think we should? Did he ever do drugs with you?
No.
Did you ever do drugs in front of him?
Yes.
And what type of drugs were you?
My drug of choice was cocaine.
Okay.
So
did you snort cocaine?
Yes.
Strictly snorted it?
Yes.
And he was in the room?
Yes.
And did he pay for it?
No.
You bought it on?
I would always bring it myself.
Okay, so you always had it with you when you went to see him,
and
then you would do it in the room while he was there.
Yeah.
Did he ever tell you not to do it while he was in the room?
He did not, no. He was always okay with it, never bothered him. So.
And anything else? Did he ever make any suggestions about that he might be interested in drugs, or that was not something he had any interest in?
I think I'd offered it to him a couple times. And he always turned it down, but he never said why.
Okay.
I never asked him why. I respect if somebody says no. I don't try to push it on anybody. So
would you say that when you did drugs in his presence, was it one time, 2 times?
It was like every time.
Every
time. Even when I was at the club, I would do the drugs.
Okay, so while even at the club you were doing drugs while he was sitting there watching you.
Yes.
And anytime you two got together, it was always in a hotel, or did you never went to his house or your house? Or?
No, it was always in a hotel.
Same hotel?
No, different hotels depending on where he was. So I would always come to him wherever was convenient for him.
All right. So now, are there any specific dates, holidays, or anything that you can remember where you were at one of these hotels?
I can't. We never were together on holidays ever.
Okay.
But it was always like a random day, like say, like sometimes it would be a Thursday night or a Wednesday night. It was always usually in the evening, but it was never weekends. Always during the weekday.
All right. So now let's get to the hotel. Obviously, you can't get into a hotel for paying cash.
Mm-hmm.
So did he use
it was always in his name.
The room was always in his name.
Yes.
And he paid for it.
Yes.
Do you know if he used a credit card for that?
I'm going to assume he did because I know you need a card to get into a hotel.
All right. So you said it was mostly Wednesdays and Thursdays, and during what time period are we talking?
We're talking between 4 and 7 usually.
PM.
Yes.
And what time on the calendar? From what years are we talking about?
Let me think. It was between 2010 to 2012.
So there's about a 2-year period of time that you guys were together.
Yeah.
So that would be easy enough to figure out. Anything else that you think we should know? Is there anything we didn't cover? And as I said earlier, obviously you're here of your own free will. You can leave anytime you want. Is there anything that you think we should discuss? Did he have any unique sexual things that he was into? Something that you would consider maybe unusual or
he liked like I said, he's a very dominant guy.
Okay.
So he likes a woman who's very submissive.
Okay.
He likes to bite.
Okay.
He had left marks on me before. Where there's the times I would be mad at him and tell him, you can't leave marks on me like that. He would always talk about me with him and another friend of his. Wanted to do like a male on female thing, and I wasn't into all that. So being that he was so like I said, he's a very dominant, aggressive guy sexually. I was not comfortable having 2 guys who were going to be aggressive towards me that I really didn't know.
So you mentioned that he left marks on you. Was there ever a time where anybody commented on those marks when you were dancing?
Yeah, a few times.
Was it staff, other dancers?
It was other dancers, always, yeah.
And what did they say?
They would just ask me, like what happened or something, because I had actual bite marks on me, usually around here on my breast area.
Okay. And they would ask you specific questions about that.
Yeah, they just ask me what happened, and I would just kind of laugh it off and say, oh, last night was a good night or something. So,
Okay.
yeah. And the only reason I had to do that is because, like, I would say, because I'm seeing this person, but the thing is, it was actually against the rules to see clientele outside the club, and if they had found out, I would have gotten fired.
Did any of the other dancers know that you were seeing Danny?
One other dancer, yes.
And is she still working at the club?
She's not working at the club, but I am still in contact with her.
You are?
And she does still live in Phoenix.
And do you know if she ever saw Danny?
I don't know. That's a good question, actually.
Right.
She was at the club longer than me. She was there before me.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a good possibility that she could have known him, and she has a really good memory.
And none of the other dancers at any time, did they ever say to you, he used to be my customer, or how did you?
Well, that's how I actually, there was one dancer specifically, she went by the name of Mustang. She was a much older dancer, cute little blonde. And she's the one who kind of took me under her wing and showed me the ropes in the club, being that I was new, obviously, and she'd been dancing for almost 30 years. Yeah. But she would kind of point out people to me on who she thinks I should go up to because, they're very generous, clients. So, and he was one of the people who were pointed out to me. So that's when I went up and actually started talking to him.
And you said her stage name was Mustang?
Mustang.
And do you know if she still works at the club?
She does not. She was actually let go not long after I quit dancing because the new club, there's a new club owner, and so they kind of changed up the whole theme, and so that's one of the reasons that I got out of the dancing.
When you were working there, did the owner of the club have any indication that you were seeing Danny?
No.
And do they have managers or?
There was one specific bouncer. I'm pretty sure he knew. His name was Dave, and I know last I heard about a year ago he was still bouncing actually at Skin Cabaret. That's now called Bones, I believe, or something. Yeah, sorry, it's in Scottsdale, and as far as I'm concerned, he's still bouncing, and that's where he is now.
Okay, so would it have been that he saw the two of you leave the club together, or he just knew?
He knew that he was one of my clients because he was the one who'd always let me know, hey, this specific client is here. So.
And then he would steer you in that direction.
Yeah.
Now, do you know if Danny ever paid him to make sure that you knew he was there?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
All right. So you don't remember any of the other guys that Danny introduced you to, other than that they were his friends?
Mm-hmm.
And did you pay them, or did they pay you? I'm sorry, for having sex with them as well?
Yes.
Did you meet them in the club, or was it always just outside of the club?
He actually brought them into the club with him.
With him?
Yes. It was him plus 4 others. I remember them I remember exactly where they were sitting. Section. So.
Or were the sections in the club numbered?
No. So the club was a really huge stage, and it had a staircase. And so upstairs was like, so basically here's the stage. Here is upstairs over here on this end is VIP like couches, and then you have like the crystal room over here, and then over here were $20 dance, table dances. Downstairs everything was $10 table dances. There was again the big stage, and then there were tables with multiple chairs around them. Then you had the tables out here that had 2 chairs next to them. And I remember, so I was on the stage, and they were sitting about right here in this table. And there's a big mirror that was behind him. So. He had drugged some friends along, and they all, introduced themselves to me, and so.
All right, so let's look at one of those specific nights. If he was there with 3 or 4 guys, did you ever make arrangements, or did he introduce you with the understanding that you would be leaving or seeing one of these other guys that night?
Yeah, he introduced me. So he introduced us, and. The guys and, one of the other guys that actually looked at me, and he said, oh, well, Danny told me what you do, what's your price? And so I gave him my price, and I ended up going and meeting him later in Scottsdale.
Okay.
Saw him, and then one other guy. Well, there was three of the guys in one house, and so I saw the one guy. Then the guy number two, then came into the bedroom, and then I was with him right after guy number one.
And the same night.
Yes.
And then you had met these guys that night at the club?
Yes.
Through Danny.
Through Danny.
Now, do you know if Danny knew that you guys were gonna get together that night? Did he have any knowledge of that, or?
I'm pretty sure he did, but I really can't say.
Right. He never said to you specifically.
Yeah.
Go home with these guys, or.
But I'm sure he knew because, I mean, you guys talk to your friends.
I was just going to ask you along that same line if maybe he had brought it up in conversation later on, something generic, maybe, hey, I heard you were with so and so, or so. It was
no,
never
he never discussed it with me.
So, and how many occasions would you say that happened where you were with some of his friends? You said
that was the one time.
Oh, just it?
Yeah.
With those two guys?
Yeah.
Did you ever see any of his other friends?
I did not. No.
Okay. I think we got it all. Unless there's anything that you can think of.
No, I mean that's really it. Like it was mostly just, between like being at the club with him and then just the sex, and that was it. But we weren't really. We were hardly ever in public together. Like I said, I met with him the one night for dinner at City Hall, and that's how.
Did you ever go out any other nights, for lack of a better term, on dates? Or was
No,
that just
it was just that one night in City Hall.
In City Hall.
Yeah. And I feel like that was him kind of buttering me up. So.
Now let's get to his friends. Did you do drugs when you were with the two guys that were?
I did not with no. I didn't.
Neither one of them.
No.
Not before at the club. Were they with the
I was always usually getting high before I went to see any client.
Okay.
So I could never do it sober.
So it kind of helped numb the whole process.
Yeah.
How long were you doing that?
The drugs.
The drugs and the sex for money and.
I was doing drugs for about 3 years.
Okay.
Because in 2013 is when I went to rehab, and I overdosed, and then I had not had sex for money since then, really, since 2013.
So you've been clean, sober since 2013.
Yep.
And
I haven't been involved in any of the adult industry since then.
Okay, and without getting into specifics, you no longer reside in the Phoenix area.
No.
You've moved away. And you've not heard from anybody from Phoenix?
No, a lot of people, I kind of just disappeared. A lot of people don't even know where I'm at, what I'm doing with my life today. So.
Okay,
and I did it for, like the safety of me and my relationship I'm in today.
All right, so now the last question I have for you, I've asked you twice.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why you're now saying this is because you think that people need to know
what kind of person that they have, like that wants to run the states, and I just don't think that he's right for the job. I wouldn't be comfortable knowing like where my money is going, really.
Now, and without getting into the politics of it all, has the recent events in the country with women coming forward with issues that they've had with men, was that something that maybe influenced you to come forward, or was it just that you had a conversation? I'm just trying to figure out how you came to be in this frame of mind that you felt it was necessary to come forward. So just so we understand, that's all.
I know people in the politic world, and I just felt when I heard that he was trying to run again for something pretty powerful, I just felt like that he doesn't deserve that, and like for example, when I'm voting for my president, I want to know my president. I want to know who I'm really voting for, and so I feel like people deserve to know that.
So that's part of it. As I understand it, I believe he's interested in running for the mayor of Phoenix.
And that exactly.
So that's part of the reason. So you think that the people in Phoenix
they need to know
should know
exactly
who somebody that wants to be mayor in their city, the type of lifestyle they live, for lack of a better term, behind closed doors.
Yes.
Okay, that's reasonable.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you can think of?
I can't.
Okay, I think we're done.